So that's that. So I was talking about the various sugar doughs. We are going to learn not in depth or in detail because we do not have that kind of time. But I'm here to solve all your queries or your questions that you might have regarding these doughs. So the doughs that we are going to learn are fondant, gum paste, flour paste, modeling chocolate, modeling paste, pastillage, your Mexican paste, and yeah, pretty much that's it. So fondant, starting from the very basic fondant. Your fondant, you've been working with this day in and out. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So fondant is nothing but a dough which is made of icing sugar, your glycerin, your glucose, liquid glucose, of course. Guys, do not use the powdered glucose. Okay, there have been people who've asked me this question: Can we use the powdered glucose for making fondant? No, it doesn't work. Okay, you need liquid glucose. You need shortening and gelatin or agar-agar powder based on whether you want a vegetarian fondant or a non-vegetarian is okay with you. So a dough made of a mixture of all these in the right proportions is going to give you something called as fondant. Okay, a very versatile dough. You can see the stretch that it has, right? And can be rolled nicely, stays soft for quite a long time. We are using it to cover cakes and making different decorations on the cakes, right? Another dough that we have similar to fondant is your gum paste. I'll show you the gum paste. This is your gum paste, this is your fondant. They look pretty much the same. Okay, you cannot figure out which one is which, right? I'll add to the confusion more later on. Okay. So your gum paste is similar to fondant. It's again a dough made out of sugar, but with a few changes. It does not have the added glycerin, which is there in the fondant. Okay, glycerin adds to the softness of the fondant, right? Now we don't want uh, somebody sent a message that you can't hear me, or what is the whole issue?
No, we can hear you, Ashwini, and I'm also getting this recorded.
Okay, awesome.
So we can share it later if the others have a problem.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. Yeah. So nobody will miss out on anything. That's awesome. Thanks, Anu. So your gum paste is nothing but the similar to fondant, but while we are making the dough, we are adding gum tragasin to it or tylose powder to it. Okay, and we omit the glycerin part. The glycerin is not added because we don't want the gum paste to be soft like your fondant. Okay, the gums or the tylose powder is added because we want it to be more pliable and it has to roll out really thin. Okay, so most of you might know that gum paste is something that is used for making flowers. So you can roll it out so thin that you can actually see what's written underneath. Okay, if you have a paper or a text and you roll the gum paste and place it over that text, you can actually read what's underneath. That's how thin you can roll your gum paste, right? How would you know if the particular thing is fondant or is it a gum paste? Basically, just stretch it, pull it, and if it pops, okay, if it just breaks with a pop sound, that is gum paste. If it stretches before breaking, it is fondant. Okay, just see this. Okay, you can see it won't be a loud pop noise, but you can feel it on your hands, or a very certain slight pop noise, and it's going to be a very abrupt break, right? It doesn't have a stretch. Fondant, on the other hand, it is going to stretch slightly before it breaks off. Okay, so that's how you know whether a certain thing is gum paste or it is fondant. Also, gum paste is going to be slightly more firm as compared to your fondant. Now, why do we need these gums or the tylose powder, and what are they? Okay, why? I already told you, because they are the agents which are going to add to the thinness or the malleability of the paste. Okay, What are they? Gum tragacanth is a naturally found gum. Gum tragacanth, gum karaya, xanthan gum. There are many kinds of gums there. Okay, or you might be using this gum in your everyday, day-to-day cooking also. We get these laddus. Yeah, we make gond ke laddu, they are called. So that is also one type of gum. Okay, we get it in a different form though. We don't get it in a powdered form, but that is also a type of gum. Okay. So basically, there are certain trees in the Middle Eastern countries where there's a sap which trickles down the bark. Okay, so people collect that sap, they process it, dry it, make it into a powdered form, and that is what is the gum. Okay, so different trees give you different types of gums: gum tragacanth, gum karaya, xanthan gum, many types of gums. They are the natural gums, right? Natural gums are going to be a little more expensive, but the strength that they offer is phenomenal. Okay, they are really good. You can use them in different proportions. Like Wilton has this mix called as Gumtex. So that is a mixture of different gums. I think it has xanthan gum, it has gum karaya also. So it is a mix of different gums in different concentrations. Somebody's video is on. Can you please switch it off and mute your microphone? Okay, if you can please switch off your video as well, that would be helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, we were at the natural gums. We can use these gums in different proportions. Every gum will have a different strength with it. Okay, as I said earlier, that they are expensive than your synthetic gums. Now, which are the synthetic gums? Any idea? Anybody? No? Nobody knows? Something that you guys use often, tylose powder. Okay, so tylose is nothing but your synthetic or man-made gum. It is the chemical name for it is carboxymethylcellulose, which is nothing but CMC. Okay, so CMC and tylose is pretty much the same. Tylose is just a brand name and a much better quality. So if you do not have tylose, you can't go to get it, or your shop is closed or whatever. You can very well use CMC, which may be locally available in your stores, local grocery stores also. But do check on the quality of it. Some companies, they offer an excellent quality. Some of them, the quality is not as great. So whenever you have the time, I would suggest that go to your local grocery store, get the CMC which is available, test it out, make gum paste with it, test it out how it is working and what concentration it really needs. Okay, so that you'll be ready for it for the future in case you have any shortage, or you need it in emergency and you don't have tylose. You can get that CMC and you know exactly how much to use and how it is going to behave, right? So, any questions so far? Guys, I'm not able to see the chat window, so if there is any questions, Anu, I'd request if you could just...
No, there aren't any at the minute. And because everybody's on mute, they may not be able to ask you. But however, if there are any questions, please do type it out in the chat window.
Ashwini, I do have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So the tylose powder that we are using, or if we are substituting it with CMC powder, so how do we know if we need more of CMC or less of CMC? What exactly would determine how much we need of the CMC powder?
Okay. So first of all, you need to be knowing how to work with gum paste or a certain thing before you try to substitute. Okay. So say, for example, this is a gum paste I have worked with quite a bit. Okay, or I've made my own gum paste and I know how to do it. I used a tylose powder or gum tragacanth. Right? One day I don't have it. I need to get the CMC. I will add it in the same quantity as my recipe calls for the tylose powder. Okay, or gum tragacanth. I will see if I'm getting the same stretch or no stretch, basically. I'll see if it rolls out as thin as my regular gum paste. If it is feeling firm, okay, your gum paste is going to be firm as compared to your fondant, then the CMC is good. If you feel it is staying softer than required, it is not drying out faster, then you might want to add a little bit more, maybe 1/4 teaspoon of the CMC. For a recipe, you can just try with 1/4 teaspoon and keep on increasing it. Okay, so that's the reason why I said when you have time, just go to your local store and get the local CMC and try different options with it so that you know exactly how much amount is required for that CMC. Have I answered your question, or is there anything you're still confused about?
Yes, you have answered. Thank you so much.
Awesome, great.
I do have a question. Just one second. It's from. Can I add tylose and fondant to make gum paste?
You can add tylose and fondant, definitely. It will not become like a really good quality gum paste, to be very honest. But yes, if you have to do any modeled toppers or any quick flowers, if you have to do, yes, you can use it. It's called as an emergency gum paste, by the way. Okay, but the quality or the finish or the feel that you get with a gum paste which is made from scratch is much different than your emergency gum paste, right? So yes, if you don't have a choice, you have to use it that way, you can use it, but not a preferred method. I would still prefer to make gum paste from scratch and then use it.
Another question from Manisha Jain. Please also explain the durability of the gum paste and fondant when made at home.
Durability, gum paste and fondant, they last quite a bit. Okay, so if you want to keep it, say, after you've made it, if it's kept out in the at room temperature, the weather is pretty decent, I would say. I mean, normal, not too hot or too cold. Too cold, it will still last longer, but when it's too hot and humid, there's a chance that it might, the shelf life will reduce. But usually on an average about 2-3 weeks easily it stays in room temperature. If you want to store it longer, you're going to wrap it in cling wrap, put it in an airtight container and put it in the refrigerator. Easily for 3 to 6 months it will stretch. Okay. Beyond that, if you want to store even longer, put that same airtight container in the freezer. Okay, freeze it till 1 year, nothing will happen to it. When you have to use it, remove it from the freezer, thaw it and get it to the room temperature, and then you can start using it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashwini. The next question is from Realme3. She's requesting, if possible, please share the veg recipe of fondant and gum paste. That's one question.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'll share it with the home bakers team, and Anu can forward it to you all.
Yeah. And Vedika has a question. Is this a veg gum paste?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're asking if this is a veg gum paste?
Yes. Is this a veg gum?
This is a veg gum paste.
Okay. And Meghna has a question to say, if you're purchasing gum paste or fondant, any particular brand you recommend that are good?
Okay. For fondant, I've been using Satinize, I've been using Vision, I have used Betanize, they're good. Sugar and fondant, they are really coming up with very good flavors, and they're improving their fondant and it is coming up really good. So I'm sure shortly they should have it available very soon. So in fondant, these are the ones that I've been using and they've worked well. In gum paste, I make my own at home many a times. If not, if I have to use them, then I use Satinize. I use Aarti's flower paste. Okay, okay, guys, just hold on for a minute. Short break. Yeah, this is fine. Where are you going? Now, just now, wait for my class, then you go. Okay, and close the door, please. So sorry, guys.
No problem.
Everybody's at home, so can't help this.
She's still better. My son would stand next to me with a new toy. Can I open it? Can I open it?
They know exactly the time when to come and ask for things that we'll say no for.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, I was coming to gum paste, the brands that I would like to use for gum paste. So I do make my own. I've used Satinized. Aarti's flour paste is really very good, so I use that very often. So you can try any of these.
The next question is, can we add both CMC and tylose to fondant? That's
At the same time,
yeah.
not required because they're both going to perform the same function. So you really don't need to add both of them together. If you have tylose and CMC both with you, I would recommend that you use the tylose powder. It's going to give you a much better product because the quality is much nicer. Okay. If you don't have fondant, then that's when you're going to use the CMC.
Okay. And so Rajvi has a question. How long can fondant articles stay outside?
Fondant articles can stay outside as long as you want them. Their shelf life or their edible prospects are not going to be the same though. So, you know, it totally depends on what is the shelf life of the fondant that you're using. That will determine whether that article, how long it can be eaten. But just as a souvenir, if you want to keep it protected from sunlight and humidity, and it will stay for as long as you want.
Okay. And Sunanda has a question. How do we know if a fondant or gum paste has gone bad?
It will start smelling. It will start looking moldy. It will lose its color also many a times. You'll see a slight fungus on the fondant. Okay, so those are the ways that you'll know that it has gone bad. Many times you notice that some fondants also leave out a little oil. Okay, especially in the summers this happens. That does not mean that the fondant is gone bad. It's just that the oils are coming out. If it is too much of oil, then yes, you need to check on the smell and the taste and the workability issues. Like, is it getting a mold or a fungus? And that's how it will tell you.
Okay. The next question is from Soumya Bhatt. What measures can we take to keep the fondant clean? Even the minutest dust particle sticks to fondant while working. Should we use
Yes,
gloves?
many measures. We'll talk about that. Just remind me of this question. I will get back to this. Okay. So
Yeah.
Anu, if you could just note it down, I will get back to this question. It's a very important one, which most people miss it. Okay. So we will get back to this. But before that, what I'll do is that let's just park some questions for the time being. I'll just go on to the other doors, explain about that, and we'll come back to the questions. Yeah. Is that good with everybody? Guys, please mute your microphones. Thank you. Okay, so our next dough, Pastillage. Again, it looks like fondant or gum paste. Okay, so Pastillage is nothing but similar dough like fondant. Okay, but it is used to make these big structures. It is very firm and it is very strong. Okay, the main thing in it is, again, gelatin is there, but there is no glycerin. There is a whole amount of tylose also sometimes. Some people don't add the tylose. Okay, so it depends from recipe to recipe, but this dough is extremely strong. It dries out much faster. So when you have to make any of these big structures, you're going to use this. So can you name two people who use this quite extensively? Any idea?
Turner.
Sardar, yes. Yes.
Seema Bagaria.
He uses it quite a lot. Yeah, who? I didn't get you guys.
Yenner.
Yes. He uses
Yenner.
Yes. So he uses this a lot. Okay, so all his structures and stuff that you see, which has like a gate made, or recently, if you've seen, there's this building kind of a structure that is made. Fantastic work. That's all using this. Okay, this dough is very firm, very sturdy, and very strong. It dries out much faster than your fondant or your gum paste. Okay, but at the same time, it does give you some time to work with it. Okay, it will give you a little time to roll out, make shapes, and it is going to give you some time to work with it. Okay, another dough which is very similar to the
Ma'am,
pastillage. I don't have it on hand right now, but it looks exactly the same again. All the doughs, most of them look the same. But another dough that we have, which is similar to
Sorry,
pastillage,
Ashwini, there's a question. What is this called, basically?
this dough.
Yeah, somebody
Okay,
missed
it's
that.
called,
Like,
the exact thing is pastillage. It's actually pronounced as pastillage. The S is silent. Okay, but it is Pastillage. Yeah. If one of y'all can type it in the chat window so that everybody else will know. Yes, yes, Soumya, that's right. Okay. So another dough which is very much similar to this is your Mexican paste. Okay. Mexican paste looks exactly the same, but it has only three components to it. It has icing sugar, it has tylose powder, or your gum tragacanth, or your CMC, and water. That's it. Three ingredients, mix it, and you get Mexican paste. Okay, very versatile, and it's been there for years together. Can be used in place of your pastillage when you want a vegetarian option, or when you want something pretty quick. The only flip side to it is that it does not have that strength and tenacity. Okay, to make anything which is like, you, for example, you can use the Mexican paste to make flowers, because it rolls out quite thin because it has tylose powder in it, but it does not have the strength in it. The flowers are going to be brittle, the petals are going to break very easily. Okay, but to make 2D structures, like if you want to make pillars, or you want to make your castle cake pillars, I mean, or anything like a standing gate or a fence or something, then this is beautiful. The Mexican paste works really very well and very easy to make. Okay, or even for making your monograms, or those letterings and all. So it works really very nice. But work time is much reduced as compared to pastillage. Okay, you have to be very, very quick with Mexican paste. It dries out much faster because there are only three ingredients. There's no softening agent in it, no shortening, no glycerin, no gelatin working for the stretch part. So, there's no softening agent to it. So you have to work very fast for the Mexican paste, right? Another one, I'll just finish off all the paste that we have, and then I'll take on the questions. In between, if there is any question which is pertaining to a particular thing, like you want to know the name or anything, please feel free to ask. Okay. Now, another thing that we have is a modeling paste. Okay. So a concept of a modeling paste is basically you have 50-50, or the emergency gum paste that we spoke about earlier, where we mix the tylose powder to a fondant. That is kind of a modeling paste. Okay. So, or people use it in 50-50, like Carlos Lischetti, he might use it in 50-50 many a times. Like you have gum paste 50% and your fondant 50%. So take equal amounts of both, mix it together. So you get the properties of both the things in a moderate range. Okay. So many a times if you have to make some small toppers for cupcakes or your cakes or anything, if you make it out of fondant, there is a chance that it might sag down. You make a ball and keep, after a while, you'll see that the shape changes. It becomes a domed, right? And the bottom becomes flat. So you don't want the shape to change. You want it to stay firm. Now, if you try to make it of completely gum paste, one, it turns out to be expensive, and two, it gets difficult to mold it. Okay, so that's the reason why they take 50 gum paste and 50 fondant, add it, so that you get that strength and tenacity from the gum paste, or the ability to hold its shape. And from the fondant, you get that softness and the taste and easy moldability also. That is your modeling paste. Now we have one more thing, which is your modeling chocolate, right? So modeling chocolate is only two ingredients again. It's your pure chocolate or chocolate compound if you would like to use, and liquid glucose or corn syrup. Okay, so I have modeling chocolate here, which I made yesterday. This is made with dark chocolate. Okay. Modeling chocolate is always best when it is made one day ahead of time. Okay, it gets easier to use it the next day. So when you make it, it's going to be nice and soft, but it may be difficult to use. It becomes too difficult to mold. You keep it in the refrigerator, and the next day you remove it whenever you have to use it. About 1 hour before that, you remove it from the refrigerator. It is hard. It then becomes hard. Okay, you have to cut it with a knife, and then you have to keep kneading it. With the heat of your hands, it's going to become softer. Okay, it's much tastier than all the other doughs. Trust me, I love this. My kids snack on it all the time. Okay, so whenever I have to make modeling chocolate, their first question is, how much have you made for us? So we can snack on it now. Okay, so it's a fun dough even for kids to play with. See, I could make a ball with it. Okay, so your modeling chocolate is very similar to your fondant, but it does not have a stretch. You can see how quickly it is breaking, right? Much faster than your gum paste also. So it does not have a stretch that your fondant is going to have. So it is difficult for you to roll it out and cover a cake exactly in the same way like your fondant. Yes, there are ways of covering a cake with fondant with modeling chocolate also. And trust me, the cake turns out to be very tasty and yummy. Okay, but it is not the same technique or the same method like your fondant. Sorry, I just slipped out a bit. Anyways, so that's your modeling chocolate. Very tasty, very yummy. These days they have a new trend of making flowers using modeling chocolate. Okay, that is also quite interesting. But the most common use for this is to make figurines or for modeling. So basically the blendability is very good since it has cocoa butter in it, okay, along with the chocolate part. So just with the heat of your hands also, it becomes very easy to blend. It merges in, okay. So for example, where's my tester? Okay. So in a fondant, if you have a crack, for example, okay, or you have, say you're joining the ears of a monkey or something, you're joining the ears, it is not going to blend. You'll still see that line. How much ever you try, you'll see a faint line there, okay? Whereas in this modeling chocolate, you just need to do this, rub it over, okay? And that line goes away. And that is because of the heat of your fingers and the cocoa butter in this, okay? So that's the reason why it is used for figurines and modeled articles. Many people even add this part of this with the fondant, mix it, and then use it. So, you know, the fondant actually gives a stretch to it, and the modeling chocolate gives the blendability part of it. It adds to the paste, and that's how you can use it as well. But I love this dough. You should try making it. Yeah. I think I've covered mostly all the doughs or the pastes that I'm aware of. If there's any missing or you want to know of any particular one, please feel free to ask. Yeah. So I'll take all the questions and you can shoot. Let me know.
Okay. Yeah, plenty of questions. So how many days can we store modeling chocolate?
Modeling chocolate, I suggest about a week, okay, at room temperature. And then again, like for fondant, if you want to store it further, you would wrap it in a cling wrap nicely and in a Ziploc bag or an airtight container, put it in the refrigerator. About a month or so it stays.
And can we make it out with couverture?
You can make it with couverture also, yes.
So what ratio of compound chocolate to glucose syrup should be used in modeling chocolate?
See, it differs from chocolate to chocolate, like dark chocolate, white chocolate, milk chocolate. Also, the company also, because we do not know what is the ratio or the exact proportion of cocoa butter that is there in every chocolate. But on an average, if you have around say 450 grams of chocolate, then I would go for 80 ml of corn syrup or liquid glucose. You can always vary more or less
What
depending
about
how the product.
bean paste?
Yeah. Somebody's mic is on and it is, I can hear a lot of disturbance. If you could please switch it off. Thank you so much. Yes, somebody was saying something?
What about bean paste?
Was it bean paste? Okay. So bean paste, unfortunately, I don't have it with me right now. But bean paste is basically a paste made with, as the name suggests, beans. People use different beans. They'll use your mung beans, that is your moong dal in India. They'll use this thing, what's that called? Lotus seeds. Okay, they'll use the kidney beans. Many of them use those double bees, the big, huge ones. Okay, so either of them, they'll use that, and they will boil it, first soak it for a couple of hours, boil it, and then add the sugar, icing sugar, and different things in it as per the recipe. Once that is done, they are going to steam it, and then it's going to be ready to use. Okay, so bean paste, the process or the entire thing is very long, lengthy, sometimes irritating to make also, but the end product is quite tasty. So if you want to make flowers or articles using bean paste, definitely you can try it. The end product happens to be quite tasty, but you have to be a little careful about it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So bean paste, I feel, is more susceptible in the humidity. It tends to get the fungus much easily, my experience. Again, with different beans, it will be different as well. Okay, so, but yeah, it's a very lengthy process. Once in a while, I like to make it and use it, but then after a while, I'll still go on to my gum paste only. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can we make flowers from modeling paste?
Can you make flowers from modeling paste? Yes, absolutely. You can make flowers from anything. Absolutely anything you can make. But it's just the quality and the thinness or the strength that is there that is going to differ for every paste. Okay, so for modeling paste, which is a mix of fondant and gum paste, the amount that you can roll out, the thinness is going to be different. So your flowers might be a little thicker. They might dry out a little slower than your regular gum paste. So those are the things, which you have to keep working around with. But yes, you can use it.
Ashwini, can you give information about rice-based flowers, and how are they made? And
Rice-based flours are again a easier version of bean-based flours or your gum paste also. So rice-based flours, again, you have your rice, you soak it, then you the next day you're going to powder it, and then you're going to use that, cook that powder, or some people directly cook it over the flame, adding different agents to it, like your liquid glucose or your water and gelatin, etc. Some people do not add the gelatin. Some people would just make that entire dough and then make it into pockets and steam it like your bean paste. Okay, so that's how your rice paste is made. But rice paste is quite resistant to humidity. It works quite well in humid conditions, right?
How many days can we store modeling chocolate?
I
don't know
think
whether
I already answered that
you answered
question.
that question.
Um,
Ingredients
yeah,
of modeling, chocolate and Mexican paste.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the earlier part. What
Uh,
was it?
there are two people asking about ingredients for modeling chocolate and Mexican paste.
Modeling chocolate is just basically your chocolate. It could be compound or couverture, and your liquid glucose or corn syrup. Either one, say if you're taking more compound chocolate and corn syrup or liquid glucose. Your Mexican paste is nothing but icing sugar, tylose powder, or gum tragasin, and water. That's it.
How long store our rice paste and bean paste?
Again, the same thing, just like your modeling chocolate, I prefer to keep it at room temperature for about a week or so. Okay. Again, totally depends on the weather that's there around. If it is too humid, then there's a chance that it might get spoiled much earlier. But on an average, I've seen that, 1 week is a good time to save it, store it at room temperature. Beyond that, you want to wrap it nicely and then put it in the refrigerator. It'll store for about a month or so.
Okay,
Thank you.
so the next question is, homemade fondant is not as stretchable as store-bought. That's the experience with her recipes. How do we make it stretchable? That question is from Geeta.
Okay, a very common problem for mostly everybody. Honestly, everybody who starts up with this has this problem. Okay, so the basic with fondant or with anything, you need to first understand how all the ingredients which are there in a particular recipe, how they are behaving. Once you understand that, you will be able to alter or change the proportions to suit how you want your particular product to be. Okay. First thing, a fondant, when you're making a fondant, okay, be sure not to add the entire amount of icing sugar that is mentioned in the recipe. Always start with half. Say if they are saying 7 cups of icing sugar, you will take only 3 or 4 cups of icing sugar, add all the glucose, gelatin, whatever is there, mix it, and then keep adding half a cup at a time and kneading the dough as required till you reach that required softness. Okay. Now, when you have reached this required softness, the more you knead your fondant, the nicer it becomes. Okay, only in the making stage. So if you have a KitchenAid, for example, just put it in the KitchenAid and put it on full speed. Let it keep kneading and doing for a while. This works fantastic. Then wrap it, keep it. Once it is ready, let it rest for about 6 hours or so. And after that, it's going to be beautiful. Okay. Once it is ready, after those 6 hours, you remove, then the amount of kneading should be minimal. The lesser you knead, the better. Okay. So while making fondant, the more you knead, the better. After it's ready, the lesser you knead, the better. Okay. So most of the people face this problem because they tend to add the entire amount of 7 cups or 8 cups or whatever the recipe mentions. The icing sugar, they add everything initially. So do not do that. Okay, depending on the quality of the gelatin that you have, or the icing sugar also for that matter. Okay, so it depends on how much water it's going to absorb. It makes a lot of difference. So add little sugar at a time, and you'll notice the difference in the softness and the stretch that your fondant will have. Okay. Now, commercially bought fondants, I have noticed or observed that many a time they do have a small amount of tylose added to them to give that beautiful stretch and for even preserving it for longer. They have certain other chemical agents also, which is going to make a little different product. Also, their fondants are made in the huge machines or batches where they have a lot of strength for the kneading part also. Okay, so those are the factors that do make a difference in the commercial and homemade. But the homemade fondant can also be very much soft and flexible or stretchable. Just try out these few tips here and there and let me know. You can contact, message me, WhatsApp me anytime you have problems working with the fondant. Right?
Yeah, thanks, Ashwini. So the other question is, I'm struggling to understand. How do you make this modeling chocolate? IOL in method or IOL out method? Did that make sense to you?
No, I didn't get your out method and in method. What is it exactly that
So
whoever
that
asked this
question
question?
was from Rashmi. If you're on mute, could you please voice out your question?
Yeah, I wanted to know how you make your modeling chocolate, oil in method or oil out method?
What do you mean
Oh.
by in method and out method? You mean to say
See,
that mixing everything together and then using it?
some people make modeling chocolate by removing the oil.
Oil in and oil out. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah.
I heard all in and all out.
No, oil, oil.
I'm so sorry. Okay, see, modeling chocolate, the method that I usually make my modeling chocolate is I'll melt the chocolate and then after that I will be adding the corn syrup to it. I always see that the temperature of the corn syrup and the chocolate is at the same approximately, may not be exact, but around, the same. Add the corn syrup and stir it with the spatula. Store it. I let it sit for till the next day. After that, if I want to use it for any figurines and all, I'll keep squeezing it and then I'll remove out all the oil. Okay. Many a times I don't even mind the oil being there. In certain applications, you can let the oil stay. If it is not a whole lot of detailed blending that you want and all, you can let the oil stay. Simpler things. But otherwise, you can just keep squeezing this, kneading this, and the oil will start coming out. Remove out all the oil, and then you can start using it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
This question is from Manisha Jain. Can this modeling chocolate be done with white compound? Please explain in detail.
Absolutely, it can be done with white, with milk, with dark chocolate. The method remains approximately, not approximately exactly the same. It's just the proportions change. Depending on what compound you're using, which brand you're using, the proportions might change slightly. Okay.
Yeah. So the last question from Vibha. Ratio of compound chocolate and cornstarch for modeling chocolates.
Modeling chocolate does not use cornstarch. It will use corn syrup. Okay, I'll show you the bottle.
Buying ready-made fondant or making it at home? What do you prefer?
This is your corn syrup. Okay, corn syrup. So you are going to use corn syrup and your regular compound chocolate or your couverture. Either melt the couverture. You take this in ml. It's a liquid form. Okay, so you get it in different companies. I have Caro, but you will have different companies also. You're going to have it at the same temperature as your melted chocolate, and then you're going to mix it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Ashwini, can you please throw some light on sugar lace as well?
Sugar lace?
Mm-hmm.
Sugar lace is
Yes.
not exactly a dough. It's more in a paste form. So you are going to make that paste with a tylose powder and water. You're going to beat that mixture very well. And then you're going to add a little glycerin and icing sugar to it. The glycerin is so that it stays softer. Okay. The tylose is mainly to give it that stretch. And then after that, you're going to add color to it if you want. Apply that paste onto the mat, your lace mats. You can leave it to air dry. It takes around 6 to 8 hours, maybe faster, maybe longer, depending on the humidity in the weather, in the air. Or you can bake it in an oven around, say, 80 degrees. You can bake it for around 8 to 10 minutes. And every oven, the time and thing will differ. And then your lace is going to be ready.
Can we use liquid glucose instead of corn syrup for modeling chocolate?
Absolutely, you can. You can use liquid glucose instead of corn syrup, It's just that the liquid glucose is quite thick. So when you remove it out, you want to warm it up slightly so that it loosens and becomes more viscous. Warming up also helps because the melted chocolate is also going to be warm. When both of them are at the same temperature, add the liquid glucose. It works